invitation. On this note, I'd like to, who is there? You have it? All right. I'll now ask that we evoke the presence of God Almighty through individual silent prayer. Amen. Amen. I know somebody may have prayed, say, make we not come on, fine, also, but God not agree. I'm waiting for you, sir. On this note, let me welcome you to the Ministry of Information and Communication. This is our usual Thursday National Press Briefing. And thank you. As usual, we'll call on the Deputy Minister to give us the weekly update. That will be followed by introduction of our main speakers for today, and followed by Q&A, that's questions and answers. So on this note, I would like camera people, please be using Zoom cameras so we stand at the back, except for the social media that cannot be zoomed there. But please, let's be using the back so that we have allowance in the front. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tui. Can we all just put on our face masks? There's a guy at the back. Put it on properly, please. Nose covered. It's uncomfortable, but please let us do it. Mr. Kone. We want to make sure that everybody has their face masks properly worn. Excuse me, there's a guy here. Sorry. Do you want to pull up your face mask, please? Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to our weekly press briefing. I'd like to welcome the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Madam Emma Koajano, the Minister of Transport and Aviation, the Cabinet Kalon, Deputy Minister of Fisheries, Ibrahim Toure, and Permanent Secretaries of the Ministries of Transport and Fisheries, Directors, Head of SLRTC and Deputy, and ladies and gentlemen of the Fourth Estate, good afternoon. As always, we start with the updates for the week, and today, the outgoing President of the Interreligious Council, Sheikh Abubakar Conte, has praised President Bio for his exemplary leadership in the fight against COVID-19 so far, pledging to continue praying for his success. He was speaking while presenting their new leadership during a short ceremony at State House. The newly elected President of the Council, the Most Reverend Dr. Edward Tamba Charles, thanked President Bio for giving them audience, adding that they had a successful assembly last year, leading to their election of a new executive to serve for the next 3 years. President Bio, in his response, said government has enjoyed and benefited from the Interreligious Council, adding that the country will continue to depend on religious leaders for peace and national cohesion. A high-level delegation led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Guineans abroad, Dr. Ibrahim Khalil Kaba, has conveyed a letter from Guinea's President Alpha Condé to His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada Bio at State House. The team, comprising the Foreign Minister Dr. Kaba, Guinean Ambassador to Sierra Leone Tijan Condé, and other top-ranking officials of the country's Ministry of National Defense and Ministry of Security and Civil Protection, also held a closed-door meeting with President Bio. The visit comes after 10 days after President Bio sent a high-power delegation to Conakry to engage President Condé on the border closure as well as the issue on Yenga. During the meeting, several framework agreements on cooperation and mutual administrative assistance in customs matters between the two countries, security and information cooperation agreements were also discussed. The Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs, today commissioned the Business Incubator for African Women Entrepreneur Center in Bow. The NEPAD-funded pilot project is aimed at empowering 200 women in 5 chiefdoms in Bow District. According to Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs, Manti Tarawali, this pilot project will create a sustainable platform for women to develop themselves. Women, she said, constitute 52% of Sierra Leone's population, and government has thought it prudent to break the chains that limit women's growth and development. The Society for Democratic Initiative, in collaboration with the Freedom of Information Coalition, has held a one-day training for information for central and local government practitioners, civil society, and media institutions on the right to access information law and how it could be used to enhance transparency and accountability during COVID-19. The program was held at the Hill Valley Hotel in Freetown. That's all we have today as updates. We go now to the issues of the day. Like I mentioned, we have the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources, the Minister and her team, and of course, the Minister of Transport and Aviation and his team are also here this afternoon. The fisheries sector in Sierra Leone has a huge potential to contribute to poverty reduction and the overall development of our economy. The Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Mrs. Emma Kowa-Jallow, during her briefing with the press last year, noted that the stock biomass of the country's fisheries has not been fully estimated in recent years, which is why a comprehensive independent stock assessment to ensure effective management measures and foster resource sustainability is currently being undertaken by the Ministry in collaboration with the Institute of Marine Biology and Oceanography. Amidst challenges facing Sierra Leone's fishing sector, including inadequate capacity and capability to effectively surveillance its fisheries waters and implement fishing laws to the fullest, the Ministry under the present administration have put in place wider policy reforms with a view to address these challenges. Well, the Minister is here this afternoon. Like I mentioned, she's there with her deputy and directors of the Ministry, and she will be updating the press on these and other developments in the sector. Madam Minister, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister of Information, my dear sister, Mamadi Kubek Kamara, Mrs. Colleague ministers, Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources staff present here. Should I take this off? I think everybody's covered, so I'll be protected, yes? It's better. Okay. Ministry of Transport, staffs, members of the Fourth Estate, and members from the Ministry of Communication present here. Good afternoon. I am here to give a briefing on the fisheries sector and to give a wider overview of what we've done in the past year, what we've achieved so far, our challenges, and how we're moving the ministry forward for 2021. The sector plays a significant role in the nation's economy. Fish as the most important source of animal protein, the annual revenue amounts to more than $11.7 million. It provides employment. It contributes approximately 10.2% in the GDP. The sector has the potential to contribute more. With many things that we're putting in place, I believe we'll start seeing the difference and changes as well. Governance of the fisheries sector, policy objectives of the new direction under MFMR. The overview policy objective is to create a profitable sector that contributes significantly to the economic and social development through sustainable management and utilization of our fisheries resources, whilst also conserving the environment. To achieve the above, we have 6 strategic actions 1. To improve management of Sierra Leone fisheries. 2. Reduction of illegal fishing through surveillance and other means. 3. Value addition, improving the handling of fish and fish stock and produce to access the EU and other international markets. 4. Aquaculture and inland fisheries management. 5. The effective and reliable data collection and information system, i.e. the fish stock, which is one of our main topics today. And the effective extension service to strengthen the artisanal sector throughout the coastal areas in the country. I shall deal with the surveillance and the reduction of illegal fishing and stock assessment first, as they are the main topic for discussion today. To achieve His Excellency the President's Human Capital Development Vision, the MFMR is implementing the following activities with the sole aim to strengthen the MCS, that's the monitoring, control and service capability. The Ministry, in collaboration with stakeholders, institutions under the Joint Maritime Committee, JMC, conducts regular sea surveillance patrol using the mid-range patrol vessel that we have, the SIK. Additionally, the surveillance patrols are conducted using inshore patrol crafts, the IPCs, including rigid inflatable boats for community surveillance. Personnel engagement in the surveillance activities are normally exposed to training opportunities to improve their skills, A recent training was conducted, most recent training that was conducted was in December last year, 2020, for all fisheries enforcement officers in the ministry, with certificates and provides body gear for them to be safe at sea. The MFML, using innovation to remotely track the activities of fishing vessels, using state-of-the-art VMS system, that's the vessel monitoring system, and automatic service, AIS, to monitor their movements at sea. These you can see from my office and from the JMC as well. With regards to the surveillance, last year we gave you updates of what we were doing. We have scientific observers that were trained in the ministry that goes on board vessels and come back with data and biomass for us to be able to assess within the ministry. But also, we had an MOU signed with the Chinese government, and a vessel was sent here that had been helping us with stock assessment. Last year, we did not do a lot on the stock assessment because of the COVID. The scientists that were meant to be here from China went, and of course, there were lockdowns. But before, previous year, when I came here as well, I gave updates on that. They are back. They have done another leg of the stock assessment, and obviously the results and the data that we've got are currently in the ministry being analyzed by both parties, both our Sierra Leonean scientists and the Chinese scientists. The result of earlier surveys shows that the estimated standing stock hovers between 300,000 to 500,000 metric tons with pelagic. The rest of it is ongoing. As I said, the assessment is ongoing, and the data will be published once we've got both parties to be able to analyze them. It is very important for us to be able to know what we have at sea, because with that we can determine a lot. Our fisheries management plan, we can be able to implement most of it, but at the same time we can be even able to know how many vessels we can license to go and fish out at sea. And we'll be able to manage our waters so that certain areas can be cordoned off to able to help us improve the stock in our fisheries sector. A total of 12,000 or more local artisanal fishing boats are within this country's shore, and they are allowed to fish in the IEZ. That's the Inland Exclusion Zone. And of course, our industrial fishing sector, we had reduced drastically on the amount of vessels that are at sea. We have even turned down certain vessels that we think will cause a lot of harm and damage to our waters. So we have rejected allowing them into our country or even giving them license or permits to come here. Some of the vessels that are here that are not seaworthy are out of sea and are there cut out to steel collectors, those that collect metals, scrap metals. So for now, the dwindling of the reduction of the vessels at sea has improved the stock that is there because it has reduced the fishing effort naturally. Also, the closed season was not implemented last year because of the COVID. But this year, we will be implementing the closed season. On analysis of the closed season, we were able to know that the year before, when we closed the waters for 1 month, it did make a lot of changes to the artisanal sector. And even the industrial sector, when they went back to fish, they realized, in fact, we had some companies asking us whether we'll be able to do it for more than a month. However, there are challenges in these areas because we must know when we close the waters, there is still running cost on the fishing sector. Employees are still employed and the vessel owners have to be paying. Fuel is still used on the vessel. And at the same time, there is no income coming in to them. We also stop exports during this time so that we'll have enough stock in the country for us to be able to utilize for ourselves as Iran unions. These are some of the challenges we'll have. But by and large, we must implement the closed season because only then it gives rest to the sea and then it makes the juvenile fish grow. And the eggs will now germinate into baby fish that will eventually be larger fishes that we'll catch at sea. So the closed season is going to be carried on this year. I can also brief on other things apart from just monitoring, control, and surveillance, and apart from fish stock assessment. The other areas that we want to talk about that have great potential are one, aquaculture. The aquaculture sector is one sector that this ministry has worked on and is continuing to work on. We have been looking at devolving certain parts of it, such as introducing bylaws so that areas that want to improve the aquaculture sector, districts that want to do that, can have proper monitoring and proper ways of doing it so that these waters that the fish will grow in cannot be contaminated and they will be shown what to do. With the aquaculture sector, you can find out that the main thing in there is the feed. Fish feed have been formulated and hence we have developed fish feed through the use of local ingredients in country. Our fisheries people at the aquaculture unit in fisheries ministry are developing feeds for these fish every day. For those that may want to tend to go into aquaculture system, you should inform the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources for technical support. We also have plans on the way to establish a practical aquaculture or practicing aquaculture in our outstations. We have about 8 outstations, so we want every outstation to have an aquaculture area wherein we'll be able now to infiltrate the different districts and teach people in landlocked areas how they can grow fish for their own consumption. This will help to ease off the pressure from the ocean and the ice fish and those that want to do smoked fish or even want to eat freshwater fish. They can have varieties that they can have in the market. So that is one area that we're looking at improving with the women in fisheries and with others that want to do that. Presently, there is an established experimental fish tank and Atten pond at the Fisheries Research Center at Kisi Dockyard. This one is purely manned by fisheries, and from there we can now experiment on the fish feed that we've got so that they will be able to know which one will fatten the fish faster and which one is good for them. But these are all local ingredients. There is no imported fertilizer or any other things that are added onto it, additives that would in future cause any health problems such as cancer or whatnot. It is purely local feeds that are generated by our good officers at the ministry. We also are developing bylaws, as I said earlier. We have got fish feed machines at Bo and Makali. These are ones that will help us to make the fish feed. For now, aquaculture, because it's up and coming, fees are really not much for those that want to do semi-commercial aquaculture. You pay probably per company just $100. And with that, you can have all the technical support that you want from the ministry. Once you come to the ministry through the directorate, you now be led to the unit of aquaculture, and then we'll sit you down and I'll tell you all what's, in fact, they'll go to the ground and check the soil and check the area to make sure this is a viable place for aquaculture or this is a good place for aquaculture to grow. All right. Because I know we are two here today, and both of us have to do presentation. I'll move on to another unit. Otherwise, I'll be consuming all the time. The other unit I want to talk about is the artisanal sector. The artisanal sector is growing, and so we are looking at. In fact, just before we came here, we were looking at a model. Of course, as it's been said, every model that you do now is through the STI, but we're looking at a model wherein we can now collaborate with the Ministry of Local Government as we've devolved some of our functions to them for lower CADA vessels so that we can now be able to monitor these platforms that we are creating are there to register all vessels in this country. When that vessel was originally made, when it expired at sea, because these are made from our local timber or whatnot, so after certain years you will have to change it. If it's there, if they're making a new one, so that we'll keep tabs on what we've got at sea. Because if we've done all the calculations, we've checked, we've registered them, we said they've got 12,000. If we don't keep that database up and running continuously, others now will be adding from different areas of the district, and we would lose count of what we've already done. So we've developed that at the ministry, or working on it, so that it will be a continuous process to be able to monitor those at sea. I'm also going to touch on the accidents at sea, wherein local fishermen do put their nets. I mean, everybody is looking for where there is the products. So when there's products somewhere, you put your fishing nets there and you fish. But we have got quite a few accidents recently. So we are advising people with local fishing nets to please watch where they go to fish. We have got marine protected areas, and we're working assiduously to be able to put marker buoys to mark the areas where, demarcate the areas where they're not allowed to go. I also want to touch on other stuff such as quality and control. Quality and control has been one that we have been working on to be able to export our produce so that we can get more revenue. The export to EU has been a challenge always. we had been able, with the support of the new direction, to get the competent authority at Fisheries. This has been a key challenge because EU had actually been putting this, that we must be able to know how our fish are handled and the targeted fish, so we have to have these records. The competent authority, I'm proud to say now, is at the Ministry of Fisheries. We have located its office at Kisi Dockyard and is fully operational and functional currently. It is there as one of the requirements of the international market, particularly the EU. We have established this competent authority. It is there for third countries wishing to export their fish to the block market. The competent authority is expected to ascertain that the handling of targeted fish for EU market by third countries comply to EU standards and regulations, and the fish processing establishments adhere to the hazards analysis and critical control point (HACCP) plans to ensure fish safety. So this is one good thing that we've done at the ministry. We also develop management plan. These plans are implemented on a short-term, medium-term, and long-term basis. And some of them have started taking effect already. Others, of course, we're looking with COVID, how can we implement them that it will have the impact that we need, but at the same time, it will be able to work well with the fish handlers and those in the fishing industry. I will touch on other stuff such as publications, mistakes in publications. Now we're here as the news will be carried out. I mean, it's best for me to bring it out. I contacted my colleague, Minister from Transport, just now on that, and obviously the MDA concerned. What their aim was to launch out 4 vessels that will be there at sea for safety, for obviously for accidents at sea, for monitoring of sea safety. But here it is published by the particular newspaper, 4 fisheries patrol boats commissioned. And now if it's a fisheries patrol boat, the only ones that we have commissioned was last year, that was last year by HUD President, that will be going out for the various coastal areas to do community surveillance. So you'll find out that the 2 stories are conflicting. These vessels will not be going on community surveillance because they don't know the fisheries law or they cannot enforce it. But they will be going out. You will see these boats out there purely for accidents and sea safety. So it will be nice for the newspaper. I'll share it with them to be able to do the correction, the necessary correction. I'll give it to my colleague when I finish. By and large, I think I've touched on all the things that I need to. If I've left out anything, my team is here. They'll feel free to add on to it. But at the same time, of course, I'll be here to answer questions that you may wish to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. I may also want to thank you very much for that comprehensive update from the Ministry of Fisheries. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 2 ministers here, the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources and her team. The Deputy Minister is here, the Permanent Secretary, directors from the Fisheries Ministry. Also, we have the Minister of Transport and Aviation, he's Permanent Secretary, the General Manager of the Sierra Leone Road Transport Corporation and his deputy, and the Director of the IROM project in the Ministry of Transport. So the Ministry of Transport and Aviation is currently implementing a $5 million World Bank funded project. That's the Sierra Leone Integrated and Resilient Urban Mobility Project. By the way, the government of Sierra Leone also provided $2 million as counterpart funding for this project. in addition to improving quality public transport systems, address climate resilience, enhance road safety, and build capacity of key stakeholders in the transport sector. This project will also transform the current role of the Sierra Leone Road Transport Corporation as a public transport operator to a public transport regulatory authority. Well, I'd like to invite the Minister, Cabinet Kalon, to read a statement to the press, and we will invite questions afterwards. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. The podium is yours.
Good afternoon, Minister of Fisheries and your team, Transport, members of the fourth estate. Let me just also reiterate what my colleague Minister Self of Marine about the boats that on this paper itself for fisheries patrol. Our mandate as on the ministry through the Marines SLMA is actually we are there to patrol the sea for rescue and safety. That's our own duty. It's not for fisheries. So I think whoever wrote this article, the storm, I think they have to correct the story. Let me now come to my own assignment here as the Minister of Transport and Aviation. Like the Madam Minister said, we have a project in the ministry we are implementing right now within the certain corridors, but there are certain sectors in the projects has to do with transport transformation. The government of Sierra Leone and the World Bank, through the Ministry of Transport and Aviation, inaugurated the Sierra Leone Integrated Resilience and Urban Mobility Project in July 2019. The project developed objectives include improving the quality public transport system, address the climate resilience, enhancing road safety, and building capacity of key stakeholders in the transport sector. Our vision is to transform the city from the congested, vehicle-oriented city to resilient, people-oriented city. As the first step, the government of Sierra Leone intends to separate public transport regulatory functions from the operational functions. By transforming the Sierra Leone Roads Transport Corporation (SRTC), currently serving as public transport operator, into public transport regulator authority. This transition will significantly improve transport service delivery by bringing public transport function into a single, well-managed and focused institutional structure. We want to transform transport sector into this country, especially the informal transport sector that you see, like the porta-pottas going around the country. We want to bring it under one umbrella. The new authority role will include, among others, develop a public transport policy, conducting regulatory management and compliance functions, developing and managing transform-based service delivery contract, conducting studies and knowledge management and monitoring the performance of licensed transport service providers. The authority will support the transition of SRTC from an informal, self-regulated public transport system to a public sector operating into functioning conceptual arrangement to deliver service to specified standard. Extensive discussions are ongoing with stakeholders, including other national and city agencies, private operators, drivers union, civil society organizations, citizens welfare group, and residents to develop the framework. This thing has gone, we have been on this for almost 1 year, and all the stakeholders are involved. This is something we have got across the and the environment. Everybody's aware, the transport owners, the drivers' union, the drivers themselves, we are all involved into this transition. Today's announcement is symbolic as it will usher a new era for enhanced service delivery in public transport system. My ministry is committed to this process and look forward to fruitful engagement with other sectors, including the media. The Ministry of Transport and Aviation will support the legal process involved as per our commitment to financing agreement grant number signed between the government of Sierra Leone and the World Bank. At this junction, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to announce the transition of the Sierra Leone Road Transport Corporation from an operator to a regulator, Sierra Leone Public Transport Authority, through this written declaration, which commenced today, February 11, 2021. This is the declaration. I want to thank the Ministry of Information and Communication for this platform, and we hope to update you as a reform in the public transport system unfold. I thank you all for your attention and look forward to your continued support to this development process. Thank you again. At this junction, I would like at this point hand over to the General Manager of Sierra Leone Road Transport Corporation to provide some insight into the transition. Mr. Ken Green.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. So on a lighter note, I am chairing this first one.
Thank you very much.
Next time. Thank you. All right, so I invite Mr. Ken Green, the General Manager for SLRTC, to please make a brief statement and give us more insight, like the Minister mentioned, into this whole new arrangement. Mr. Green, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Minister, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, Directors, members of the Fourth Estate. Good afternoon to you all. Well, SLRTC, as you all know, or as I suppose you know, was created by an Act of Parliament, to be specific, Act number 17, 1964. This is 2021. That Act has never been reviewed, and so it is obvious to know that the Act is obsolete. We have been yearning and making strides to review the SLRTC Act number 17, 1964. The Act is no longer fit for purpose. SLRTC's mandate in that Act is to both operate and regulate. And as you all know, SLRTC had only been exercising the former and never the latter. Sierra Leone Integrated Resilient Urban Mobility Project is a welcoming news for SLRTC, not least because giving us the mandate to operate and regulate at the same time does not create a level playing field. It breeds conflict of interest because you cannot be the player and the referee at the same time. So what the Sierra Leone Integrated Resilient Urban Mobility Project is doing is to take that operating authority from SLRTC and create a mandate exclusively to regulate public transport in the urban Freetown or the urban cities generally. Ladies and gentlemen, the acronym IROM has been carefully chosen. Every single word has a punching impact to its ultimate desired effect. So it is actually called an integrated because you cannot operate a public transport system in silo. So it is involving all the stakeholders in the transport sector. It is resilient because with all the things it is bringing into this proposed new form of transport system, there would be people who are resistant to change. There would be conditions which are resistant to change, and so this Sierra Leone IROM has factored resistance into the implementation of this project. Urban, obviously, we're going to focus on urban areas, not the rural areas. And so the acronym Sierra Leone Integrated Resilient Urban Mobility Project is deliberate. How would SLRTC benefit from this? SLRTC, for a very long time, had been struggling with operating in a normal way, because that is not how an effective, efficient, and reliable public transport should be run. What the Sierra Leone Integrated Resilient Urban Project would be doing is create an enabling environment whereby all informal operators would be supported, would be trained, and brought together to operate like SLRTC, an organized institution, and SLPTA, which I forgot to mention because that is the name that we will be transforming into. It is the Sierra Leone Public Transport Authority. So this is the authority that would regulate public transport operators. So all the podas, okay, so all the podas and whatever you have as public transport will try to bring together, formalize them in a very organized fashion so that public transport would have sanity for once, it will be reliable for once, it will be effective, dependable, and efficient. I thank you all.
Thank you very much. So from henceforth, SLRCC now becomes SLPTA, Public Transport Authority. Right, we'll be talking on this side, so we'll now turn the microphone over to you for questions, clarifications. So we will invite questions. Yes, Mr. Start the times.
On the transport sector, I guess here is going on to discuss a whole lot of things because there are aspects of legality when it comes to changing of mandate or whatsoever. And also the transport sector is one of the areas that are very, very difficult to regulate. So I guess the minister will think about this and provide us a forum where we can discuss a whole lot around this. Now let me come to the issue sector. There's a particular case involving SAPCO Fishing Agency. There was an accident, and you've ordered them to pay compensation, and up till now, they've not done so. So what next? Because this company is refusing to pay compensation for the boat that they have destroyed at sea. Secondly, on the EU accepting.
Mr. Minister. Mr. Minister, my impression as a journalist in 8 African countries for 16 years gives me the conclusion that Sierra Leone is the second worst transport country in terms of transportation after the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Minister, sir, my question is, when would you convene a national conference that will comprise of your ministry, the Minister of Internal Affairs, the Passenger Welfare Association, the Civil Police Force, the Civil Drivers Union, to address the ongoing transportation problem in this country that has contributed a lot towards the socio-economic development of millions of domestic houses that are living in the capital. Madam Minister of Fisheries, it's no secret that anyone who works at the marine sector of Sierra Leone fisheries, according to public opinion point of view, will automatically buy a nice car in 6 months' time.
Alright, okay, can we learn how more people ask questions?
I should build a beautiful house in 15 months' time. And I ask you, how much have we lost in revenue from illegal fishing in our territorial waters? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kamara, there's Kaba at the back from our good newspaper. We'll come to you, sir, after. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kaba. Fishing. Madam, you made mention of MOU with the Chinese government. Can you tell us more about this MOU? And of course, the number of vessels you register already. Can you just highlight how many of them? Thank you.
So is it all the MOUs, or is there a particular MOU that we're talking about? It relates to what? Sorry, sir?
Stock assessment.
Stock assessment. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's it, Musa. Right for the success statement. I have 2 questions. One for the Minister of Transport and Aviation, the other for Emma. First, the Minister of Transport. The transport sector, especially in urban areas, is chaotic, messy, and very, very much time consuming, which we all know. This project that you have at hand, are you telling us that it will go to create an orderly and a time-effective transport system in our urban areas? Second, to the Minister of Fisheries. You spoke about value addition so that we can access the EU and other international markets, which is very, very important to enrich our economy. But also we have the local market. How do you create a fine balancing act so that the people of this country are not deprived of fish supply, and at the same time we access the international market, which will bring us much needed revenue? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let the ministers respond, and they will come back for the next set. So I'll start with the Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Minister. Okay. With regards to the accident at sea, cases are brought to us and it is investigated. I am not sure, as you said, SACO, which persons or company or personal vessel that this accident is with. So I think you should bring the information to the ministry so that we can look into it. Because I don't have specifics here to say, okay, SACO was involved in an accident with so and so. and when it happened, so we can give you a proper answer on it. Yeah. If it's net, as director said, it's a net destruction. As I was saying earlier, sometimes they put their net in the ship's way or on the vessel's way, because they themselves are fighting for the same resources, I suppose. So I'm not sure which one you are referring to. If you have the clarification here, I'm happy to deal with it. If not, you can bring it at a later date and we'll still deal with it. With regards to EU accepting our fish for sanitary aspects, we've done a lot. If you go to Tombo now or you go to Godrich, we have constructed toilets facilities for fishmongers and those that fish in the area, and even those that go to just trade in fisheries products. We've also constructed platforms, raised platforms. These platforms are there so that when you get the fish, you don't just put it on the sand now. You take it to the raised platform where you'll be able to clean it off and process it, whether it's to scrape the scale or to take the gills out or whatever you want to do to process it properly. You would use the platform. Of course, you can see now through UNICEF in collaboration with Iceland, we have created more toilets and in fact water. Because when you go to fishing sites, usually beforehand, there had been no taps, so no pipe-borne water. Now we are constructing tanks. If you go to some of these, the two major ones, you will see tanks are there to be able to supply water to the community and to the wharfs, so that the processors will be able to wash down their fish. So we've done a lot in the aspect of sanitation. We have got women in fisheries, which under the quality control unit, they go around to help to clean these toilets and make sure they stay in a proper condition. But also, not on a daily basis, but I think there's a weekly basis or so, they go and collect the debris around that is left on the beach by the fishmongers. So that's a huge difference from what it used to be. With Mr. Kamara Wash newspaper, it's a myth. Me personally, I believe it is a myth that anybody that goes to the Ministry of Fisheries in 6 months would be driving a new posh car and with a house in a year and a half. I'll let you in a secret. I'm making it an open secret. I live in my own house with my family and my husband. We have been building from when I was in Parliament over 6 years ago, and we're still on it. So for me, I haven't been able to complete what I started 6 years ago. So it is a myth from time past. But however, being revenues lost, we have really drastically cut down on that. In the area of IUU within our waters. For those that do go into the IEZ, we have got, as I said earlier, we've got a very good VMS system, vessel monitoring system, that operates in the office for anybody within the ministry. We put it on. Sometimes when I sit there and hear the alert, I'll jump from my table to just go and see which vessel is going either closer to the IEZ or is there, so I could now send a warning either to JMC to warn them off. But we've got that. We've got observers on board these vessels. They bring in their logbook and their reports. They radio in. There is a radio room in the ministry. And of course, at the JMC, the Joint Maritime, where we've got Fisheries, the Navy, the Marine Police, these are all joint MTAs joined together to be able to monitor the same waters. So now, in fact, our fines have changed drastically. So before, when somebody goes into the IEZ, they're fined $10,000, $30,000. Now, for us to be at par with the sub-region, we had reviewed our fines, and fines are now to the tune of $500,000, $1.5 million. If you go around Mauritania, you will see some of the vessels parked there. It's not that because we don't want them to go fish and bring the fish for us, but because they've committed a crime, an offense somewhere. So until they come back and make a payment plan and start paying that, we will not release them. So that is a huge development in that area. Beyond that, even to the ones that are at sea, it has become a deterrent. Because if a vessel costs like 200,000 US dollars, and I commit a crime, I don't send my radio report, or I tamper with my VMS so that minister cannot see it, or JMC cannot see it, or nobody in the ministry can see it. When it comes to light now, when we find you of the offense, you know now it's $500,000 and your vessel is worth 200. So it's absolute rubbish. You think now, well, I'm losing my vessel for nothing. So it will deter you not to go on and even attempt doing it. So we've got a huge improvement in that area. With regards to us cutting down on certain aspects, the harbour, the fish harbour will help us a lot, because then we now can see tuna vessels coming in. That is one area that we are still working on, because the harbour itself, thank God to this government, we are now in the process of paying compensation, compulsory acquisition to people that own land in the area, so that that area is totally free. And we've already gotten the the grants from the Chinese that has been said already to the tune of $55 million that will do the harbour for us. So we are on that. Once that is done, we will now see a huge improvement as well on the revenue side. We've also got now Sierra Leone owned community surveillance vessel, wherein they are there. All the coastal areas, the 8 coastal areas, will have vessels eventually by the end of this year. 6 have been launched already, and 2 are on the way under the World Bank project, so we'll have that, and that will complete the 8. And then the older ones that we've got, we'll put it now for our own fisheries officers to just monitor around the PC and other areas around the peninsula. So that's how we've worked for revenue loss. However, with the COVID, of course, export dwindled and many other things, as you heard me say, we didn't implement the close season and so forth. But our revenue still dropped a little bit from last year, because we're not bringing in so many vessels that are not ideal for our waters. So these are some of the areas where we haven't raised revenue quite. With regards to the Chinese MOU, the MOU basically had several things, including aquaculture, stock assessment, the harbour, and so on and so forth, and even exchange students. Year before last, they went. Last year, of course, the COVID, no students went, but they had been going there, studying, and then coming back with the knowledge. Now, the stock assessment, the vessel is here, provided by the Chinese government. It has got crews on board, it's got scientists on board, and so we as Sierra Leoneans, for our own part, we have got Sierra Leonean scientists on board from our the last leg we had from Slurry, we had from the FMTI, Fisheries Management Institute, we have from IMBO, we have from Fisheries itself, our fisheries officers, and we've got observers that go there alternate basis. They go there and gather the data, and then they come and then they assess. So the Chinese do theirs in Chinese, but then they obviously revert back, translate back into English, and then ours is done in English. So when ours is done in English, that can be now translated for them in Chinese. So these two scientists, proper scientists, are there to give us the proper, accurate data. The actual program is for 3 years. So each year we've got 2 legs, 1 leg in the rainy season, 1 in the dry. And so we do that for 3 years, then we can have a comprehensive stock assessment that we can do. We also got others that we do the scope mission, wherein the observers go on different fishing vessels and bring reports as well. That one is accessed to within the ministry under INGO. So that is, I think, value addition. Value addition, I think I've spoken about that already, because the hygiene sanitation is value addition. training women into how to process their fish is value addition. Of course, the latest is the processing plant that has been opened in PC by Sarah Fisheries. That is a huge bonus to this country because that's the first in its kind and it complies with all the EU requirements. So we are working assiduously to make sure, even if it's not EU but anywhere else, our markets become more valuable and they gain more money in the market and more competitive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Before we go on to the response of the Ministry of Transport, may I please implore those of you having a mask under your nose to please pull it up. We have a room full of people and we must ensure that we adhere to the protocols, please. Thank you very much. So I'll invite the Director of the IRON project from the Ministry of Transport to answer questions and the Minister may add to what you see if need be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Minister. There were two questions directed at the Ministry of Transport. One dealing with setting up a national conference to address public transport issues, and another one was asking whether the IRON project will bring order and time and efficiency in the public transport in the city. The first one is easy because obviously anything that you will bring to the table to improve and communicate with stakeholders that will improve the way we move people and goods around the cities is welcome. And the Ministry of Transport and Aviation will strongly consider a national-wide conference in bringing all stakeholders at that level. But what I want to say now is that we are not waiting for a national conference to start addressing the problem. The Ministry of Transport is exactly answering that question by bringing in the IRON project. And on the board of the IRON project for the steering committee, better known, we have the Indigenous Transport Owners Association, we have civil society represented, we have the Kekes and Okada Association represented, we have the Drivers Union represented, we have the Sierra Leone Road Transport, the Sierra Leone Road Authority, the Sierra Leone Road Safety Authority, Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Lands. All these stakeholders are represented on the steering committee, and we have been talking about collaboration, coordination in bringing sanity into the public transport space. And the second question I will move into seamlessly is, yes, the intention is to bring this citywide, not just in Freetown, but in all other urban cities, in terms of having a modernized and professionalized public transport system. But this project is specifically addressing two corridors in Freetown as a pilot phase. One is from number 2 all through Wilkinson Road, Savage Street, Sanders Street, Gloucester Street, Checker Stevens Street, Gloucester Street, then the bus station. The second route will be from bus station, Wilberforce Street, Sani Abacha will be a bus-only route onto Kisi Road when you are going to the east, by Gure Road to Jiwe. And when you are coming, you use Frobe Road back into Sani Abacha Street and to Wilberforce Street. So these are the two corridors that we are intervening right now, where we will bring a modernized form of bus transport system. Inside people will not affect for go inside bus. You will have predicted times, particularly for peak times, say between 6:30 to 9:30 in the morning. You will have predicted bus moving just like ants from one bus stop to the other bus stop. And there are a lot of background work going on. We will organize the informal sector, but we'll also engage formal established transport companies to come into this space. Each of these corridors have 3 routes. I will take the west, for example. We have one route where you move from bus station all the way to Longley, and that's where the bus will terminate, and then turn back. The next route will be on to Ogu Farm. The next route, the final route will be to number 2, and they will terminate there. The east, you will go to Shell, Wellington, and then Jiwe. So a different company will be running one route, but the buses you will see on the road will be the same. you won't know who owns what. We will handle that background. All the customer does is to buy your ticket and put it on your card or your mobile money. You won't be paying money to a driver anymore. This is the system we are bringing. You will have a monitoring center, maybe half of this room, located most likely where the current RTC office is. When they become a regulator, their office will be modernized. We will build multi-story at the bus station. We will regenerate bus station, and they will have a car park there, but will also have their office there. And they will regulate how this payment is working. I don't want to bore you with the details here. We will call a bigger, maybe a meeting where we will engage just for transport and explain in detail. But to summarize, one, we will welcome a national conference. We want to hear wisdom from every other department, especially people who are experiencing it daily. Number two, yes, the IROC is here to answer the question of the chaos now and to organize it, but in a limited corridor so that we see it, and from that position we will extrapolate into the wider cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. So that is the transport sector heading for a new direction, or a new direction. All right, so we'll take a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up for today. Yes, happy to see a lady wanting to ask a question. Thank you very much, Madam Kuka.
Yes, my name is Nana Kuka, and also Artisanal. I want to ask the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources. It's about the local accident you were talking about. I could remember there was a time I had an interview with you, and the local fishermen were complaining that their nets were destroyed by these trawlers. But now you're emphasizing that they are putting their nets in the areas where the trawlers are. And you did tell me about the system, the monitoring system you have in place. So is that really helping you to ensure that these local fishermen, this problem they are encountering with the trawlers, it will stop? Because I remember the last time I told you we went to one of the Waka College, and you did assure us that they should come and report to you, and you'll find out through your system if they have the dates and when this thing happened. And my next question is that presently, as we speak, there's fish shortage in the market, and it's very expensive. So tell us why. And for the project coordinator for IO, I want, as Mr. Green stated earlier, that there's going to be resistance. People will definitely resist when it comes to change. And you definitely need to ensure that the city is decongest, to make it beautiful. We've gone to other countries in Africa, and their cities are beautiful. So for me, I want to see fit and look good, So in terms of ensuring that this whole project is successful and it is implemented smoothly, where you will not face resistance from people, especially in areas where you want to pick up structures like markets. What are the systems that you have put in place to ensure that all those obstacles will not hinder the successful implementation of the project?
Many thanks to you, Diana. We'll take, yes, there's a gentleman here at the back. We'll wrap up anytime from now, so maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Mohammed Kago. I write for A2Z Multimedia Corporation, a newspaper. My question is for the Minister of Fisheries. You mentioned, Madam Minister, you mentioned the issue of sea accident, but you did not tell us the statistic. Could you please tell us the statistic in that direction? Thank you very much.
Okay, one more, final one.
Back to the Minister of Transport and Aviation. I'm just looking at the chaotic manner in which the streets are congested in Freetown, and if you are going to implement this project, how are you going to deal with that? Because we do not have enough streets, and the streets are congested. Madam Minister of Fisheries, it has to do with Sabko and one Mohammed Kamara, whose boat was destroyed at sea. And then I guess you've given directives to SAPCO to pay compensation of 80 million euros. That has not been done. The SAPCO is still refusing to pay.
Okay, thank you. Take Satiu Kalon, not the lady. I will follow up with the ministers after this press conference. We'll have Mr. Kabara running this press conference, please. Thank you.
Satiu Kalon, my question is for the Minister of Transport and Aviation. Mr. Minister, a few days back, we see there was an increase in the different petroleum products, and after that, you came out with the different prices for all transport fare. But again, people are complaining about the halfway, and also drivers are not complying with what you came out with in terms of what people should be paying from different destinations they are moving around. How are you ensuring that most of those prices you came out with are really implemented? They are not just in black and white.
Many thanks to you, Sabtu. So that's it for questions. We'll now come over to the ministers for their response. Maybe because the last question came from the Minister of Transport, maybe we'll just have them start with the response. And then we'll do the Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Sabtu Kalon. Your question is, before we put up the press release about the price increase, because of the price increase in fare, we have a formula in the ministry. We work with other sectors, and we don't just sit in the office and calculate this thing. We call all the transport owners who are people operating in the sector, the drivers, union, the keke, all the unions that involve the transport sector, and we explain to them the rationale of increasing the price. So all of us sat down and do the calculation, and we come up with the price that we think is reasonable for everybody. Like Yali said, we are not out there on the street to implement the price, ask drivers to abide by what government has stipulated. That's why we work with the police, the traffic warden, and the drivers union. This is something we ask, they go out there, this is their own people representing, they represent them. Even passenger welfare, they are all part of this process. All of them will sit down and agree on this price. So it's for them to actually go out there and tell their membership that this is the price and they abide by. I mean, yes, as a ministry, we are responsible. We don't implement that. That's why we have the police, we have other players who are involved to make sure people abide by what the government has stipulated in the price increase. When the whenever there's an increase in price or decrease in petrol, we go back, we call them, we sit back and do the formula downward or upward. Like Mr. I don't talk about the street congestion. I mean, like this also other areas as a government, we are doing very best. We are working with all the sectors that involved, SRSA, road transport, the police, and the traders union, Minister of Trade. All of us are working together to make sure we decongest the streets. But as you all know, we know our people in this country. Sometimes it's difficult to actually put system in place. And like the iron, we have a lot of issues moving people from the street, even just to put a signpost. It's not easy, but we are very determined to make sure we do this. That's why we're working with all the other sectors so that we can decongest the street. So buses and other private people will move on freely. On the other question was the director, I will ask the director just to answer that one question.
Right, Director, briefly just
Yes, briefly indeed. There were two questions actually. One from Zainab. Is it Zainab Kuka? Diana, sorry. Thank you for your question. It was based on how would the project reduce or eliminate resistance as we try to implement the project. The very first thing I would say, there is no social project of this nature, public nature that will not face resistance. You will. and it's not uncommon for project implementations to face resistance. However, what I can tell you is that there are clear, we have 3 strategies within the project. One, the internal social and environmental safeguards plan that we have, that we roll out. This project will never take advantage of any Sierra Leonean who owns a property that we need. We will engage you, we will sit with you, legally document it, sign a contract with you, and we've done that tons from Lonely going all the way throughout the corridor. We engage and we ensure that you are satisfied, we pay you compensation and use your land if we need to. So that is ongoing, and that's how we are. The second way we reduce that resistance is to get deep collaboration and consultations with other stakeholders. I read you the nature of our steering committee. We consult a lot in this project, so maybe that's why you haven't had any noise about it in this regard, and hopefully we won't have to. But yes, I will agree with you. We have been delayed. For instance, we need to put up the market and terminal at Lumley. We delayed that because there are 2 people who are in court, and there was another land where the private person took the Ministry of Lands to court. We waited, and now we are settling that out of court, and we are almost finished. So that is why we delayed, and that's correct. Some of these issues can delay implementation, but we are working very hard with the support of the minister. We have gone through and almost completed that. The second question from Mohamed Kone was the chaotic nature and the limited road infrastructure. How can we squeeze this project to get something like a BRT system in Freetown? It is exactly why we are innovating. It is exactly why we have this. I will say this as my final way to answer your question. For example, we have to innovate where you have limited resources. Freetown, we have a lot of roads. We need policies to say, for example, in the morning, if most people are going this way, we have 4 lanes. Take 2 of that lane plus 1 of the other lane and let people move from 6:30 to 9:30 eastward towards the CBD. You can reverse that after work to come back. Of the 4 lanes, take the 3 that are coming this way, take 1 of that one. It's a policy decision. You put a sign, it changes. For example, what we don't have currently in Freetown is most roads don't have the signs to tell you what to do. Most of us knows a Savage Street from 6 to 10 are 1 way for go, but there's no sign there. We should do that. Put sign for the public to know after 10 this road will become this way. You change the sign. These are what we will be doing, plus many other innovations that we are bringing to use our congested road and say make it fit for purpose for the buses to move swiftly, and then with people and get dignity for take public transport. I will stop at that for now.
All right, thank you very much.
The traffic lights here, sorry for that. Let me say this to the public, it's important. In this project, to enhance this same decongestion, we are installing traffic lights in about 5 intersections from here all the way to Jue. I'm not talking about street lights. Street lights will be part of our project, but traffic lights that will regulate and will reduce the policeman they come on our street for do other work.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Yaka. If you need further clarifications or you have other questions, you can go to the Ministry of Transport. Yaka and the Minister and his team are there to answer to more questions from you. So we'll give the Minister of Fisheries, my sister, to respond to her question.
Thank you, Madam. So, Diana, yes, indeed, we spoke about accidents and stuff. But now, I'll tell you one example. I was in one of the early morning flights when the flights were normal from Morocco, and that flight came in. We went on seabird to come. Somebody had actually spread their net across. We spent over 35 minutes. And I'm asking the people, why are we stuck in this same place? And they were shouting, go move this thing here, you point your torch like that, you tell me who's part for go, no, go cut your net. They were standing there, they didn't do anything. So I said to the man, I said, well, just drive. I said, because I'm here. And I'll just tell them on your megaphone that I am here. Tomorrow morning, if they go to the ministry that their net is cut, I was here as a witness, they were told to give directions. So these are some of, it's not always that it happens, but sometimes it does happen. When they need to replace their net, and they find the bigger industrial vessels to go and just spread in front to do the replacement for them. And then they come back because they know we fight for them. They know their committees there, the consortium fights for them. They go and say, well, my nets don't cut. So they have to replace. So some of the companies are fed up of just paying out all the time. So probably within a month or 2 months, they would have paid some huge amount, you know. So somebody already dead came once. Myself, I'm deputy minister. We sat there. We really fought so hard. This man was saying, Madam Minister, I'm going to go check this thing. I never did enough court. The observers said, no, we didn't see any incidents of our net cutting. But we said on humanitarian grounds, please pay. They paid that man 32 million euros. 32 million euros. And later we found out it was just story made up. So these are some of the things. It's not always that it happens, but it does happen. So the fine mesh between the truth and the non-truth is the problem. The only thing that we rely on is the observers on board the major fishing vessels, the bigger vessels, to bring reports and tell us that yes, this happened. And then of course, we now can check how long, if we wanted to, the VMS, how long they actually stayed in that particular area. Because if the net is cut, there is always a commotion. Most of them will argue or will try to follow that boat to stop it. The shortage of fish and fish price, Director will answer it. But let me just tell you something. It's a trickle-down effect. For now, we know the price of fuel has gone up. Beyond that, all over the world, production is very slow with COVID and everything else. And even for areas that have been heavily subsidizing their vessels at sea in foreign countries, have now decided to cut down on some of these subsidies. So this is going to have a huge impact on the fishing sector. By and large, she will come and address some of those issues. I'll just sit back. So the statistics of accident at sea, please, because the time frame, I know, and so you will come to us at the ministry. They will now just give you all the statistics that you need.
Thank you very much.
I'll pass it back to briefly.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon again. Shortage of fish in the market, so many reasons. Number one, our neighboring countries, most of them now, from Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Mali, all of them, their fish is dwindling, and they come here. And we have arrested so many Ghanaians, Senegalese, Guineans fishing in our water, the local fishermen. So that has been a challenge. So they smuggle it to Guinea and distribute it to the rest of West Africa. We have also the issue of bad fishing practices by artisanal fishermen. They are using dynamite fishing, explosive, destroying the baby fish, the eggs, everything. So that fish won't grow for us to have the fish. Same thing, we have them using monofilament nets, the plastic net that doesn't rot. They are using it to fish, and they get this baby fish. They also send it to Guinea for the poultry farmers of aquaculture. These are some of the challenges. We have even increased what we call the landing obligations. We used to have 30%. We increased it to 40% so that they can land 40% of the catch here and they export the rest. Even at that, what our local women do, they will go to the fishing companies and say, I just want 10 cartoons to take to Bombay market, for example. They will end up having 10 of those women loading a truck of fish, or now they are using the sea, taking it across. So these are some of the challenges. We put our systems in place, but they always beat the system, as we say. Our people, so we continuously sensitizing them so that fish will be available in the market. We have put system in place, but it's challenging. Also, adding to what the minister has talked about, net destruction. We have two issues: net destruction and the accident at sea. The accident at sea, I think only 2 cases. One was a ship, big, I think a big merchant ship, and the fishermen, unfortunately, that ship did not destroy that, did not kill or whatever. But when they woke up, I think they saw the vessel they saw, they just named it. But for humanitarian grounds, people agreed to pay something. I think some of you saw the clip last week, which the minister did. They sent some money to compensate them. The other one, I think, was the fisherman that died, but only 2. The rest is net destruction. Net destruction has become a business for our fishermen. It's a business. When you have an old net, just go and spread it in front and you just name. So now we are finding it very difficult to convince the fishing companies to pay. That's why Sabah was, not trying to pay that amount of money, because he said he has over 5, I think, those type of complaints. But we have been able to convince him that this one is genuine. Sometimes it's difficult, but that guy, I think he took microcredit and he has been in police cell for over 7 times. we have asked Sabah to pay. But these are the challenges now. They are doing it as a business. So the new system we have, we are just from a meeting, we are trying to have a database so that we will know what type of net, how much did you buy it. Before we used to do it before, we are working with the council. That's part of that function was devolved to them. But they never went to the council for this compensation because they know that councils won't do it. They come back to us. So we are finding a way to make sure that they desist. We have talked to the union to talk to their fishermen to stop this, because it's becoming very difficult. Most companies, there is another company, even at the police station now, the police are giving it back to us. We can't handle this anymore. So it's been challenging. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director. So this is how we draw down the curtains of today's edition. Please make sure you're here again next Thursday. As you will agree with me, this is the one-stop shop for good information, first-hand information from the various sector leads. So thank you for your time. Television stations are here, media, print media, and of course, all of you that made it to this press conference. We also have press kits from the Ministry of Transport for our journalists. Please sit back and give a call. Thank you very much.